just finished watching Thunderbolts for the first time, right?
Yeah, I finished it the other day. It came out on just a couple of days ago on Disney Plus. Watched it, liked it. Kind of sad that it didn't make as much money as it should. I thought it was a really great film. Just
Really?
yeah, I thought it was. I enjoyed it. I watched it 2 days in a row. I just thought the way the characters, every character had their own beat. They were all able to shine. Even Taskmaster, who got done dirty, her fight scene bouncing the shield off the floor. I mean, that was pretty good. But everybody had a chance to shine, and everybody had a reason to be together. And yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Cool. So, what do you think is Jack Schreier as what sorry, is it Schreier? What's
Uh,
his last name?
Schreier looks right. I don't
I
have
think
an
it's
official
Jack Schreier.
pronunciation, but I think it's Jake Schreier.
Jake Schreier. Pretty sure it's Schreier. Yeah, Jake Schreier. There we are. What what are your thoughts on him being chosen to direct the X-Men? Where do you think
Uh,
that comes from? What do you think that he's done that really translated to Feige and the other producers at Marvel Studios to say that this is the guy for X-Men?
well, I think with Thunderbolts, we were chatting. It was a trauma drama a little bit.
It
Everybody
is a
was
trauma
connected.
drama. Yep.
It was connected through some sort of trauma, and he did a really good job in balancing everybody out. Which I think when you have X Men, I mean X Men could easily be a trauma drama if he overlays kind of that type of filmmaking over X Men. Easily could be that
Right.
depending on the angle
Right.
that you take. And he does well with crowds. So he did a really good job of managing the numbers, of making sure that everybody was represented equally, and everybody had a chance to shine. And it's a good choice. Marvel has a history of finding good directors after they've done something well and kind of hanging around for a while. So you have Schreier doing that. You have obviously the Russo brothers doing that, and then of course James Gunn. He stuck around for all three Guardians.
Right.
So you find a winning formula, and it works. And I think what Marvel is probably doing more of than before is maybe letting directors be directors and just make a good movie. I know Feige had his hand in all of them, trying to keep like a singular tone through the first three phases, and it worked for the most part. Um, but at some point, when you get a director like Chloe Zhao to do Eternals, you let Chloe Zhao do Eternals, and but they didn't let her do that. So I think Marvel's learning their lesson and letting directors direct and let them make a good movie, and let the chips fall where they may. Critically, Thunderbolts did really well. Commercially, unfortunately, it didn't do as well as they would have hoped, but I'm hearing that streaming numbers are fantastic, which we talked about this in an earlier episode. That is the movie going audience now. It's just they're just not going to the theaters as much anymore, and it's coming out in streaming, within 90 days. So I this is the second Marvel movie I didn't catch in the theaters. And I saw it at home. Thor: Love and Thunder was the other one for
Mhm.
different reasons, but I saw from the previous Thor: Love and Thunder was not going to be great, so I kind of skipped that one. But that's me now. I don't go to movies as often as I used to because I know it's going to be on streaming pretty soon. So streaming numbers are going gangbusters. You can kind of equate that to like DVD sales back in the day, where a movie would get a second life as a DVD in rentals and sales, and that would propel it to get a sequel versus what it did in the box office. So yeah, I think Jake Schreier's a good pick. He's did well with Thunderbolts. I'm excited to see what he's going to do with a clean slate of X Men. That's kind of both a pro and a con, but it'll be interesting to see what he does with it. I mean, it's 3 years out. We're already prognosticating about about it.
Right. Right. See, the one thing that threw me off about the Thunderbolts was that I didn't feel like it showed enough of what the Thunderbolts were purported to be, which is this group of sort of anti-heroes.
Yeah,
It was more like they were the bad news bears than say anti-heroes. You know what I'm saying? Like they were underdogs. That was sold very well.
yeah.
But as far as them being like Marvel's answer to the Suicide Squad, just was not there. Like that component is not there. First of all, they have a figure in the story somewhat like um what's her face? Played by Oh man, why is it leaving me? Waller, Amanda Waller,
Oh yeah,
right? They have a
Valentina
figure
Allegra
that's
de
somewhat
Fontaine.
like Amanda Waller, right? You know,
Yeah.
with Valentina, right? But it didn't really feel like that. Like it didn't feel like that at all. Um, there just wasn't. I don't know. There was just something missing from that particular film. I think that could have really given it a little bit more depth. You know, they leaned really heavy into the trauma drama stuff, and I think they provided the necessary backstories and the necessary foreshadowing to build that and to sell it to the audience. Like it's all there. I'm not saying that they didn't, you know, they failed to build substance into it. What I'm saying is that there was a component of the Thunderbolts that I was hoping to see that we did not get. Um,
Yeah.
and I get why they did it that way because the Sentry is obviously has this other part of him, the Void. And if you're going to tell the Sentry story, you kind of have to go into the Void at the same time. So how do we what's the best way to overpower this sort of omnipotent being that's very much equivalent to Superman in the DC universe? What's the best way to overpower him? And that's going to be through the Void, right? That's not going to be as Sentry. That's going to be him as the Void. So I get where they were going with that, and that definitely made sense to me. But listen, I don't want to meander on Thunderbolts too long. I want to get more into this X-Men thing.
Sure.
So Jack Schreier, I think, may be the right choice for the X-Men. I think you made a lot of good points. I think he did juggle the personalities and the bodies very well as far as throughout the film. He juggled the personalities. He juggled the different character dynamics to make them sort of work together.
Hmm.
Bucky kind of felt like a square peg in a round hole at times, but I think they did a good job of sort of finding his place because he's not really a lot like those guys. He's a
Right.
little bit like those guys, but he's not really like those guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how he deals with the X-Men because like Scott Summers is sort of the Bucky of this equation, right? Everybody else has these severe traumas, these these really dark pasts, these haunted personalities. But Scott Summers is like the high school football, you know, captain who basically one day shot optic beams out of his eyes and that was the absolute worst of it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
everybody else had this much greater thing that they had to deal with, right? Wolverine had his thing with Weapon X, all his dead fiancés, all his dead women, the fact that he's been around for 200 plus years, etc. Nightcrawler, obviously, that's sort of like right at the surface as to what he's had to deal with. Rogue, again, it's self-explanatory what that woman had to deal with. Storm, self-explanatory. Like they all have these very colorful pasts, and I'm not trying to minimize and say that Scott doesn't have anything they didn't go through. Like his parent, you know, his parentage is very, very odd, and is
Hmm.
not exactly the clearest story in the world. And I'm sure he struggled with that throughout his childhood. If they get into that, like we saw a lot of that in X Men '97, right? But he's still the guy that sort of doesn't really fit the trauma drama mold. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what he's going to do there. But before we jump farther into, I wanted to get more into like, I wanted to talk about ideal casting, or I know, first of all, let's talk about the characters. Like,
Yeah. Who's your lineup?
who do you absolutely have to have in this X-Men movie?
Starting. So we're gonna starting five like a basketball team.
Yeah, we'll do
Uh,
five. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
we'll do
we'll do
five.
five. Okay. So I got a hot take.
Okay.
I don't think you introduce Gene or Wolverine out the gate.
Boo.
Yeah, I don't think you do it. I because well, you know, you have X-Men First Class, which was sort of a soft reboot of the X-Men franchise.
Right.
And you didn't have the big 3 in there other than Cyclops, right? You had some lesser known mutants in there, and it was a great movie. And from what I've read, this is gonna be a younger skewing, and I kinda hope they don't go high school young. I hope they go kinda like college, end of college age young,
Yeah.
because we've done the high school. I don't
I
want to
don't
go
want
through
a
that. I
YA
don't.
movie.
Yeah,
I don't want Marvel looking at the X-Men as a way to replace the promise that they made about uh uh the Young Avengers,
yeah, yeah. So I
right?
don't want high school X Men. I
Right.
want like mid to late 20s, early 30s, kind of in their career X Men. But the whole question about how do you cram them into the MCU after 20 years of them not being in the MCU is a whole other question. But my starting five, back, I digress. So my starting five. So hot take: I don't want Wolverine or Jean Grey right away. I think you save them for later movies. I think for me, I think you have Scott, you have Iceman, you have Nightcrawler, Beast, and Angel. Those are my five. Because, and here's the reason why I don't want Jean Grey, because the moment you put Jean Grey in there, somebody's going to want to do the Phoenix Saga. And we've all seen how poorly that's been done, but that seems to be the white whale of every director that gets the X-Men franchise is, let's do the Phoenix Saga, and it just goes horribly. So let's not put Jean Grey in just yet. Wolverine, I mean, Wolverine is such an iconic character, and no matter who plays him, you're gonna have the Hugh Jackman comparisons, and
Yeah.
that's gonna be unfair to who, unless you get Henry Cavill to reprise his role as the
Cavalrine.
Cavalrine, then whichever young actor gets Wolverine is just gonna unfortunately be compared, and that's not fair to that person at all. So I feel like if you wait till later, and really, I mean, Hugh Jackman he's in peak shape for him to be in his mid 50s. He looks
Yeah.
great. So he
Yeah.
can do this till he's 90. And he's said he's willing to do it until he's 90. So maybe introduce him later. Hugh Jackman, I don't know, but I think you want to establish the universe first before you start throwing in the big guns of Storm and Jean Grey and Rogue and all of them in there. So that's my starting five. What about you?
Okay, so you don't want to
Night?
lead with what's commercially going to be the most successful, basically.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Without having the big three in there, right? Without having the big three
Okay.
in there, you have people that have been seen before, but not a lot of. So Nightcrawler was the best part of X2, right? But Alan Cumming's 60. He's not going to be doing Nightcrawler again
Right.
after Doomsday. So
Right.
you can slot in another. Alan Cumming is not necessarily Nightcrawler. You can slot in another young gymnastics actor
Right.
to do Nightcrawler. Iceman's the same way. Beast, as long as you have Kelsey Grammer voicing Beast, anybody can play him. And then you have Scott Summers. Oh God, who did I say? Nightcrawler, Iceman, Beast, Cyclops. Oh my gosh, my memory just went to crap. Uh, Nightcrawler, Beast, Cyclops, Scott Summers. So it's like, jeez. So
You're missing
Cyclops.
somebody.
I'm missing somebody. So Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Iceman, Beast,
Archangel, you said.
Archangel. That's right, an Archangel.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, personally, Archangel I liked Archangel in the comics. He was one of my favorite characters. And again, not seen. He was in Age of Apocalypse, forgettably in Age of Apocalypse. So again, you can
Yeah.
slot anybody in there. So these are characters that haven't been in the movies a lot that you can't really compare to, because you're going to get the comparisons with Wolverine, to some extent Cyclops, but not really, and then Jean Grey, because Jean Grey's been shown multiple times in different iterations. But yeah, that's my five. I think they're well known names that will do well commercially, but it helps establish that base, and then the second MCU X Men movie comes out, and then you start introducing some of the other ones. Then you get your new Wolverine in there, and then if you want to throw Jean Grey, fine. Just don't do Phoenix Saga. Do something else.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, me, I've got to have Wolverine. Have to have Wolverine. I'm a huge Wolverine fan. I don't want an X-Men movie without Wolverine. I do want him to be somewhat physically more accurate to the comic portrayal. I would settle for 5'8", 5'9" if they had to go for it. I don't think that we're going to get 5'3", and I'm okay with that. Or 5'6", like, he's sort of fluctuated throughout the comics from 5'3" to 5'6". I don't think we're going to get that. I do want him to be Canadian. I think that would be really cool. I think they need to go for an unknown, but I also think he needs to be one of the older people in like on the team.
Mm.
I think he needs to have that sort of grizzled aspect to him and like older for the sake of the fact that he's also born in, the 1800s, right? He was born in the year 1812, I believe.
Yeah.
So I want that to be an accurate component of the character. I want that backstory. I want that fully established. Um, I definitely want the more layered version of Wolverine with the Weapon X experiments and Alpha Flight and all the stuff that he's been through, Japan, etc. All that stuff. I want all those layers to the character. I don't need to be introduced to them in the first movie, but like flashbacks and stuff, like let's definitely get into that. You've got psychics that work with him to sort of unearth those scenes. Let's start doing that again. I think that would be a great idea. Um, and by the way, we shouldn't be counting Professor X in our 5 because that
Oh
doesn't
no,
make
I
any
didn't. Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Awesome. Um, Nightcrawler for sure. I love Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is one of my favorite characters. He's probably in my top 20 of all Marvel characters. And then I would say uh, Rogue, Storm, and Cyclops. Um, that's right. Wolverine, Nightcrawler. Yeah, yeah, Rogue Storm and Nightclops or Cyclops. Actually, I think we should make it 6 because 6 would be more of an even for an X-Men team. 5 is not really an even X-Men team, I don't think. Like how many were on the first team on X-Men 97? Like 6, right?
Uh, I think it was. I feel like it was more than 6. I mean, there was
I
there
think it
was a
was
lot
more
in
than
there.
6 too. But we'll
Yeah.
do 6. So, I would have Jean. Like I think you need Jean as just to create the sort of love triangle aspect of it. I really want to see them go that route. I think it would be really exciting to see that play out a little bit, a little bit more detail with what the MCU can do. I think that might be interesting. But like I said, yeah, Storm, Rogue, Cyclops, and Wolverine and Nightcrawler and Jean. Those would
Yeah.
be
Yeah. I'd throw my Storm as. Or I'd throw Storm in there as my 6th. Yeah.
okay.
I
Yeah,
like Storm.
I think I think those are all the most compelling characters, not only from a visual sense in terms of being able to see their powers in action, but also I think that they have the largest fan base, the largest following. And I think Marvel needs to double down on commercial success as much as they possibly can.
Yeah.
Also, they were very popular characters in the X-Men 97 series. I think that they should be using that almost like as like a data pool to kind of mine, where, what decisions make the most sense, what they should be doing, how they should look at making creative decisions. I think that that should sort of be, uh, the tool that they sort of use in mind for resources. So I
Yeah.
think that would be interesting. Okay, I'm gonna cut this out, but I want to go back and do one more. Like there was another segment I came up with that I wanted to do. So
Okay.
I'll just jump into it. All right, cool.
Okay.
Because I can just cut and paste this stuff and move it around. It's pretty awesome. Um, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, Rich. How did you first connect to X-Men? Like, what was your first connection? Were you one of those? Like, was it first the animated series like most people our age, or was it like were you into the comic books before the animated series?
I would say it was the animated series. That was my first kind of toe into comics. Really, I didn't really
Yeah.
get into comic books, like collecting comic books, until college. But as a kid in college, a kid in high school, the X Men animated series just was really. It was cool. It looked
It was
cool.
awesome.
It was for me as a teenager. Oh my gosh, it was the best part of Saturday morning or
Yep.
afternoon. But it was really a compelling series. And looking back on it now, I kind of rewatched a little bit of it before 90 X-Men 97 came out. It aged really well. I mean, some of those stories are still compelling today. Um, I, one of my favorite episodes was when Nightcrawler was more or less witnessing to Wolverine, telling him, like it was basically presenting like the gospel story to Wolverine. I thought, man, that's really interesting that they did that in a cartoon, and the way they were able to weave it into the storyline was really, and that's when I kind of started really getting into Nightcrawler. I thought Nightcrawler was a really cool character, because his Catholic faith really defines who he is in that episode. But yeah, and then in college, I got into comics and collecting them, and the Age of Apocalypse series was really cool that I got into. Chris Claremont, I think, is obviously a classic line. Was that
Hmm.
2012 ish when he came out? You know, when his line came out. So yeah, I mean, X Men is just a really cool uh just group of characters that are all somewhat damaged in one way or the other, and interesting that they exist in a universe where people revere people like Iron Man and Captain America that have these special abilities, and Thor, but these other group of people, just because they're born with these powers versus bestowed upon them in some weird way, they're rejected and shunned. It was a really interesting dichotomy of, protecting the people that hate them, and I thought was really just a compelling narrative of having X Men, because you could X Men was w- you could slot in any group of people into X Men in terms of like a tortured group, or a people group that felt belittled or downtrodden, and you could identify with the X Men, and I think that was the biggest draw.
Yeah, you just had to be a mutant. That was really the only qualifier to be in the X-Men. So it
Yeah.
was it was a group that was sort of inclusive and inviting to everybody.
Hmm.
And it certainly made you look at people that were different than you. Like if you were an X-Men fan, you couldn't really be one of those people that look down upon anybody for being different, because like you were fans of all these weirdos that had all these crazy powers and did all these wacky things, right?
That's
Like
exactly right.
you got literally a blue demon who can teleport wherever he wants, and has a devil has a devil's appearance to him. um but he's also a pretty devout Christian, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like they were like fascinating group of characters, fascinating team dynamics, fascinating character dynamics. There was always something happening interpersonally between the group, but also on the outside with the outside world. Like, how did they connect to the outside world, but also how did their connection in the outside world affect the outside world? Like, there were so many different layers to those stories where um, it was always interesting and compelling for sure, and a very exciting group to follow. My first connection to the X-Men, actually, so I was big into like ninjas and GI Joe and all kinds of like very combat soldier ninja type stuff. And when I saw this character with like knives on his hands, I was like, holy shit, that's dope. Like, I want to find out more about this guy. So I started looking into him, and I was like, okay, this guy's named Wolverine. He's part of the X-Men. X-Men sounds cool. And I got my dad to take me to like the local comic shop because I got interested in it. And I bought classic X-Men #1 for $10. And at this point during my collecting, I didn't know that classic X-Men was just reprints of uncanny X-Men. So I thought it had something like extremely special. But the cover was amazing. Like the cover art on classic X-Men #1 was just amazing. And I loved it. And it's the story where they do their first mission to Krakoa, right?
Hmm.
The first, Banshee, Wolverine, Thunderbird, uh, Colossus, Nightcrawler, like the new group, right?
Yep.
Um, and I thought it was awesome. Like I was like, holy shit, this is really cool. And I just completely like fell in love with Wolverine because he was just, no fucks to give, and just did whatever he wanted to do. And he was just the guy that, kind of went by his own drum. Like he wasn't somebody that was going to kowtow to really anybody. And he just seemed like a really interesting character. And it was kind of funny to watch him walk around to like 5'3" among all these like huge people and have him be the guy that comes out of the fight like, just totally unbroken but ready for more. I just really loved him as a character. And then shortly after that, I read the Dark Phoenix saga, and I just fell in love with it. I just fell in love with X-Men. I fell in love with comic books. I fell in love with storytelling. I fell in love with the whole thing, like the Shi'ar Empire, like that whole storyline, like where
Hmm.
they had to fight them, like the X-Men had to fight the Shi'ar to keep Jean alive. I was like, holy cow, this is awesome. This is so good. So yeah, so that was my introduction to X-Men, and then obviously the movies, the animated series, obviously, like I said, was a big part of my growing up. And then when they came out with that movie, I was like, I was first in line. I was like dying to see it,
Oh yeah, I was
dying to
giddy
see it.
like I was giddy like a 12-year-old schoolgirl. I mean, to
Yeah,
see the X-Men on screen after watching them, in comic books and in cartoon form for so long, and seeing them on screen live and just nailing every character, right? Um, the 2000s X-Men's really, ushered in the comic book movie era, and showed that when taken seriously, it can be done well, and people will like it, and people will go and see it, and Hollywood learned the lesson, and off to the races we went.
yeah.
And it's wild hearing some of the stories behind it, like, Hugh Jackman wasn't supposed to be the original Wolverine. It was supposed to be Russell Crowe. He turned it down and said, "Hey, I know this guy, Hugh Jackman. He might be good at it." And then
No, I don't think it was Russell
off course
Crowe. I
his
think it
rocket.
was the guy from Mission Impossible.
Oh, Doug Ray Scott. Yeah,
That
Doug
yeah,
Ray
yeah, yeah,
Scott.
yeah, Dougray Scott. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was him.
So
Yeah, somebody wanted the dude from Tool too. I think it was Tool.
Danzig.
Danzig. Yeah, somebody
Yeah,
wanted Danzig at some point. Yeah.
yeah. But it was just, yeah, it was like when I watched the 2000 movie, it was like when I was watching the animated series for the first time. I'm like, holy cow, this looks
It was
so
pretty
cool.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was pretty
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, that first opening scene while Wolverine, like where Wolverine is like just literally just doing bare knuckle brawling in a bar, like in a,
yeah,
like that's straight out of a comic book. Like in
yep,
the middle of Alberta, he's
yep.
just jumping in the cage with people and like throwing down. Pure comic book moment. Um, and he extracts his claws like when he gets angry, like just so good, so good. Um, I was like a little thrown off by how they position Rogue in that movie though a little bit,
Mm.
like making her young and making her that young and yeah, it was an interesting way to go, I think, with that character. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but it worked for me at the end. So
Made her somewhat the damsel in distress for the movie.
yeah, yeah, they
Yeah.
definitely made her the damsel in distress for sure. But like it was the main problem I took with that movie was the whole angle with the president. I thought that was kind of stupid.
Mm.
Thought that was kind of dumb. The machine, like, and the whole scene with him melting, that was
Oh
just
yeah,
uncomfortable and just weird.
turned it into
Like,
water.
yeah, I wanted like a real, like, I just wanted an X-Men movie with like X-Men fighting Magneto. I didn't want to see a guy like melt to pieces. I wanted, yeah, I wanted something a little bit more substantive
Yeah,
there. But
that Statue of Liberty fight where where Wolverine gets thrown, but then he like hits one of
uses
the
his claws to
crowns
like swing
to
around.
swing around. I was like,
Yeah,
whoa, that was a really cool shot. Best
yeah, that
shot in
was
that
pretty
movie.
dope. That was pretty dope. Yeah, not gonna lie, that was pretty gangster. Cool. So, all right, we'll go jump into the next segment. All right. Yeah. So, we picked our characters,
Hmm.
kind of who we want. Let's start with casting. Who is your ideal
Oh boy, here we
Professor
go.
X?
Man, anybody not Patrick Stewart just seems wrong. But he's getting up there. He's getting up there in age. I don't know how much longer he wants to do Professor X. Um, Gosh, put me on the spot. I'm not for sure. What was the guy's name that did him in X-Men First Class? What was his name again?
Oh, James McAvoy.
Yeah, I mean, bring him back. He was great. But are we starting like all new again? Like this is going to be. So I'm guessing Doomsday is going to be the final nail in the coffin for the Sony universe of what they have with Marvel. Um, so I guess we're going to have to start all over again. Um, I don't know, man. You go first. You tell me who's your dream casting.
Sure, maybe mine will inspire you. Okay,
Yeah,
Bryan Cranston for Professor X, I think,
I have heard
is the best
rumors.
choice.
Yeah,
Is
I
the
have
best
heard
choice.
rumors.
Yeah, he'd be great. He'd be
Yeah.
great. He has the range to carry it. He's just a great performer, great on-screen presence. And I think when it comes to dealing with the students, when there's moments of tense, when things get tense and when things get sort of combative, I can see him kind of going to like Walter White sort of levels of anger, and I think it'll be interesting. So I would go with Bryan Cranston. Bryan Cranston's out like definitely my top choice
Yeah,
for
he's done the, mentor role. He played Zordon in the Power Rangers movie. So he's got that, like, mentoring young heroes bit down.
Yeah, he does. He did play Zordon, and he mentored Jesse Pinkman in a way, I guess. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think he would be great. And I like obviously we know that he can pull off the bald head,
Yeah.
and I kind of see him fitting very seamlessly into that character physically, like just sort of the aesthetic of it. I see him fitting very easily into the aesthetic of that character. I think
Mhm.
that he would just look awesome and just look picture perfect and just perfect note for Charles Xavier.
Yeah. I agree with that casting. That's a good one. I've heard some fan castings of, like, of Stanley Tucci as Professor X. I like Stanley Tucci.
Stanley
That
Tucci's great.
that could be a good pick. That could be a
Yeah.
good pick, but I like Cranston. I think he's got the gravitas to pull it off and, um, being able to guide young heroes. I think he'd be good.
Okay. Cool. So uh I guess we'll cast my group first, then we'll cast your group because we have different groups. So that really
Yeah.
only makes sense. Okay,
Yep.
so we'll do that. Who would you cast as Wolverine if you had the choice?
Oh, man, after seeing Henry Cavill, I'd love to see Henry Cavill as Wolverine,
Okay.
especially in the MCU, but he's a big dude, man, and if you're talking comic accurate, um, yeah, he might be a little too big, but I gotta go with Henry Cavill because after seeing him in Daredevil, or Wolverine Deadpool, I was like, "More of that, please." I got such a man crush on that guy, so, yeah, Cavill for Wolverine, I think would be great.
Okay. Cavill, I think, is a little bit too old. I think. Don't you
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that because like you're saying they want to skew a little bit younger, right?
yeah.
So don't you think they may be just a little bit too old, or I don't know. Thoughts?
Mm, yeah, maybe. There were rumors of Daniel Radcliffe maybe playing
Right.
Wolverine, so that's been
Right.
and Taron Egerton kinda getting thrown around too. Taron Egerton would be a good Wolverine, I think, especially after watching him in Kingsman. He's got the action
Yeah.
chops. I think he'd make a great Wolverine.
Interesting. I want I want a fresh choice. I want somebody completely new that we don't know about, that's Canadian and that can carry the role. That's ultimately what I want. I don't know if we'll get that. If I had to choose anybody who's out there right now, it would be Wes Chatham from The Expanse.
Oh,
Amos.
okay. Yeah. I haven't
Yeah.
seen The Expanse yet, so I'm not familiar with his work.
You haven't seen The Expanse yet? Dude, you got to
No,
watch that series. It's so good.
it's on my list, man. Not enough
It
hours,
is
too many shows.
so good, man. It is so good. Yeah, they're like that series is like probably one of the best things on television right now, or best thing available like right now. It's so freaking good. Okay, so let's cast one of your guys. Who do you want to cast?
Uh I'm gonna go Archangel, and I want to see Austin Butler as Archangel.
Austin Butler's Archangel would be peak.
Yeah,
That's a
he.
peak Archangel choice. I really like that one.
I like Austin
Now, I've
Butler.
heard people talking about him for Gambit. He'd be a great Gambit. He'd be a
He,
great Green Arrow, but
yeah,
he also, I think, would be a great Warren Worthington, great Archangel, great choice.
I
I
mean,
think that would be ideal.
he would play kind of that spoiled rich kid shtick really well, and then as he progresses through the movie and grows his character, he becomes that person that does the right thing, and kind of sheds that rich kid persona. But he's got the looks, I think, for a Warren Worthington the third kind of guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've seen him getting fan cast as Gambit, but I think I'd rather see him as Archangel. And if they decide to go with like the metal wings later on down the line, he can play that like Horseman of the Apocalypse type role too. I just think he's a really great actor. I saw him in Elvis. I thought he was great in Elvis. Masters of the Air, he was really great in that movie too. Just shows a lot of range and that he's just more than a pretty face. So I think you need somebody like that for Archangel to show some depth. and that he's just not some rich, good-looking white guy.
Yeah, and he's definitely kind of menacing when he wants to be, and you need that for Archangel. So that's a
Yeah,
good call.
yeah.
That's a really good call. Okay, my next cast is going to be Storm. Who would you cast as Storm? And I'll tell you mine.
Storm. And this might be recency bias, but me and my wife watched Wicked the other day.
Right?
So I think Cynthia Erivo, I think
Oh
would make a
God,
really good Storm.
no,
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 I thought she was
no.
great.
She's so annoying and she's so extra. Like like listen, I'm sure she's a wonderful person. I'm sure she's a wonderful human being, but her showing up at those press junkets with Aria Grande and just going full extra with her, like on every interview, like crying and just too much, dude. Just too much.
I mean, that's press junkets, though. We're talking about character on the screen. I think she would do really well. Back in the day, when I was fan casting X-Men back in the Wizard, remember the Wizard magazine days?
Loved
Uh,
Wizard Magazine, dude. Wizard Magazine was the fucking best. So
I,
good, dude.
I wanted Angela Bassett to play Storm at some point. I think she could still pull it off. I think she could still play Storm to this day. But I mean, if we're casting younger, and yeah, so Cynthia Erivo's kind of the it girl at the moment since Wicked, so I think she'd make a pretty good Storm.
Okay. So I'm gonna throw you a total curveball here. I want Alexander Ship again.
Alexander Ship. Okay.
She was in Apocalypse,
Oh, that's right.
right?
That's right.
I thought
Uh-huh.
she was a great Storm. I had no problems with her as Storm. I thought she was a great Storm. And I think that she's attractive enough and she has enough screen presence and enough range and she's an excellent actress. I think she would kill it. I think she would
Yeah.
be amazing. Um, I like the fact that she had the mohawk in the apocalypse. I don't want to see her with the mohawk just yet. I want to see that be, sort of the transitional point when she goes to the Morlocks, if that ever happens.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think Alexander Ship can carry that, no problem. All right, who we casting next for you?
Um, I think we should go with Nightcrawler. Gosh, who would I want for Nightcrawler? Uh, I really want Taron Egerton to play somebody in the X-Men. So I think he would probably do pretty well as Nightcrawler. Um, in the blue paint. I'm trying to picture him in blue paint though. It's when I said Alan Cumming is a Nightcrawler, that's who I'm picturing in my mind as Nightcrawler is Alan Cumming. He just looks so iconic in X-Men
Mhm.
2. And looked really great and really with the prosthetics and everything just really looked just like Nightcrawler from the comics. I don't know if Taron Egerton could pull it off, but Egerton could do a good job physically. Who was that one kid that was rumored to play Spider-Man back in the day? He was in Ender's Game.
Asa Butler.
Asa Butler. I think he'd be a pretty good young Nightcrawler.
He'd be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
He'd be good. I'm gonna go because I said Nightcrawler too. So my Nightcrawler would be Finn Wolfhard
Oh,
from
I didn't even
Stranger
think about that from
Things.
Stranger Things. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, he'd be good. He'd be really good. He's got that lanky body. He's tall. He's got he's got the right dimensions. I think he's got the
Yeah.
right presence too, like the right face. Like I could see him as like a blue demon with that, the hair that he rocks in Stranger Things. Like I think that could actually work for him.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like it's blue and stuff, but obviously I think he would look pretty cool. Cool. All right, well I casted my Nightcrawler, so you go again. Who's yours?
So, the next one I have is Iceman. I think I want Shawn Ashmore back as Iceman. He made a
Shawn
really great
Ashmore
ice
was good.
he
He was good.
was a really great Iceman.
Yep.
And his acting has only improved through the years, especially like in The Rookie, he's really good. But yeah, I would want Shawn Ashmore back. It's been a while, so I think people will forgive that we're recasting the same Iceman in our MCU Iceman, but he could be somewhat the elder statesman in the group, right? The one that's kind of been around the block for a bit and can show some of the younger ones the way to go. But I really love Shawn Ashmore as Iceman, and I want to see him back as Iceman. But another guy that has caught my eye recently is the dude from Cobra Kai. Tanner Buchanan, I think.
Oh, he's
Uh,
good.
he did a really good job in Cobra Kai, and I think if you're gonna go younger, you wanna go with him. Uh, and thinking about the Cobra Kai cast, I think Zolo could do really well, but I think he's gonna be tied up with Blue Beetle for a minute,
Yeah,
hopefully. But Tanner, I think he would make a really good Iceman too.
cool. All right, I've got another Stranger Things pick. Dacre Montgomery,
Oh, I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Billy.
Billy. Oh, okay.
Remember he was in Power Rangers too.
Oh, that's right. He was the Red Ranger.
Yeah, he's
That's
got
right.
that look. He's got that like sort of Silver Surfer. See, that's the conversation that never gets to have around Iceman. Is like how him and the Silver Surfer just basically look like twins. One's made of metal, one's made of ice.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Too
But
funny.
see,
But yeah,
looking
Dacre
looking
Montgomery.
yeah, looking at him now, I would want him as my Cyclops. I mean, he'd make a great Cyclops too.
I gotta go with Schwarzenegger for that, man.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Patrick Schwarzenegger. I
He
really
he's
like
got
him as Cyclops.
yeah, he's got that square jaw, doesn't he? What
He'd
was
be
he
good.
what was his
He'd be good.
character
But
in The
you know who
Boys?
else would be great if they were going a little bit older for Cyclops? Alan Richson would be an amazing, amazing Cyclops.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
big, like he's a little too big. You probably have to kind of slint, like sort of trim down a bit. He's a big dude, but I think he could kill Cyclops. Like he's got the whole look. Like he's definitely got that whole like I play the quarterback look, you know?
Yeah. He actually did in Blue Mountain State, which is funny. Funny you should
Yeah.
mention that. He would actually be my Colossus if I were to cast Colossus. Alan Rickman as
Really?
Colossus. Yeah, what do you need for Colossus? A Russian accent and just huge, right? So I think with the dialect coach, he can get him to do a Russian accent, but the man is a mountain. He is massive.
I would want that kid back from the original X-Men movies that never got to say anything. He just looked great as
Oh,
Colossus.
that's true. Yeah,
He was
he did. He
awesome.
didn't. He didn't get much screen time, did he? He rescued the
Yeah.
kids, and that was about it.
Yeah, he was pretty good. He was pretty good. But yeah, he didn't get much screen time at all. Okay, where are we in casting?
Oh
Is it my
gosh.
turn?
Sure.
Okay, so what did I say? I said, let me think. Did Wolverine, did Nightcrawler, did Storm. So leftover is Cyclops. So yeah, I'm gonna say Alan Richson. I would go with Alan Richson if I could. Like if I only have that one choice, um, yeah, if I only have that one choice and I'm going a little bit older, I'm going for Alan Richson. If I'm going younger, I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be Schwarzenegger. Yeah, I think Schwarzenegger is gonna be a good pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Cool.
yeah. Who do you got left?
Who do I got? So I did Iceman, did Storm, Cyclops, Nightcrawler. So Beast. Okay. So Beast is kind of complicated. I,
Right.
I I really liked um I really liked the portrayal of him in the original X-Men movies. The guy that played Frasier. God, his name just blitzed my mind.
Kelsey Grammer.
Kelsey Grammer.
Yep.
So I want him to be voiced by Kelsey Grammer. But again, we're skewing. We got to go younger, right? So, um, yeah, because he just has that voice of just authority and
Yeah,
old and
Grammer has an
wise.
iconic voice, dude. Like you cannot get past
Yeah,
how iconic his voice is. It's crazy.
I mean, even Darth Vader now is still voiced by James Earl Jones via AI, right?
So true.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, so I think I want it to be voiced by Kelsey Grammer. I want to keep that. I think,
Okay.
and then I don't know. You just throw any person in blue makeup and you're done, right? So it is just somebody that
Right.
can play him physically. Um, so for me, I don't really care who plays him physically, but I just want him voiced by Kelsey Grammer. He did such an iconic and they already established that sort of in the MCU with that post credit scene in the Marvels.
Yeah.
So it's already there. So that's really the only X-Men they've shown in the MCU. So it's already somewhat canon. So I don't think it'd be too outside the lines to say just get Kelsey Grammer back in the sound booth and then just throw somebody in a blue suit and you're good.
Okay. Yeah. But if they went younger, who would you go for?
Um, so if they had to supply the voice and the body, I would say mm, Sam Richardson. When he played that one dude on Ted Lasso, the owner of the Nigerian soccer team. Um, I think he'd be pretty good
He'd
as
be good. He'd be, I don't know, he wouldn't sound very, he wouldn't have that academic presence though, I don't think.
yeah. But physically, I think he'd do good. He's kind of a big physical guy.
Yeah, I guess
Um,
so.
yeah, yeah. So I guess for that, he'd be a good pick.
Okay, cool. All right, I got two left. I got Jean Grey and I've got Rogue. Um, let's see. So for my Jean Grey, I'm probably gonna go back to Sophie Turner to give her
Okay.
another shot. She was great. I think she'd be awesome. But I'd also go with Connor Leslie from Titans.
Okay.
I
I like
think
Titans. Titans was good.
I think she could be, I think she could be amazing as far as that role goes. Connor Leslie killed it. Like she's a great actress. She's an amazing actress. She just didn't, like her role just got minimized, right? Like she could have been a much bigger, she could have been a much bigger draw in Titans than she was allowed to be. She was just a great actress. So I would love to see her come back and play that role. I think she'd be amazing in that role. Do you
Yeah.
got anybody left?
No, I don't think so. Iceman, Storm, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Beast. No, that was it. And then
Okay.
yeah,
So my rogue is
or
probably
Angel.
going to be Margaret Qualley. I've seen a
Who is
lot of
she
people are
from?
talking about her and sort of fan casting her, and I really like Margaret Qualley a lot. So
Huh.
I would go with Margaret Qualley. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. So you get put in charge of the X-Men movie, right? It's all up to you.
Oh boy.
Who are you building your story around? Who are the characters you're putting the focus on?
So who's my POV character, right?
Yeah.
I feel like for me, because of my six, so you have Iceman, Storm, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Beast, and Angel.
Yeah.
I would probably make um gosh, I'd almost want Nightcrawler to be my POV because
Okay.
he's kind of he's blue, and so he's but I just love his complex character, right? He's like you were talking about, he's looks like a demon, but is a devout Christian, a devout Catholic.
Yeah.
And him entering the 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 MCU and as an X-Men, I mean, where would you start, right? He was a circus trapeze artist. So maybe you kind of start it from there. The big question though to ask is if we're starting these X-Men in the MCU, the first thing is where were they? Where have they been since 2008's Iron Man? And I
Well,
think you
see,
have to answer that question before you can really dig into who's your POV.
okay, so let's tackle that first because I actually have an idea about that.
Okay.
So, with everything that's happened in Eternals with the Celestials, I would say the best way into the MCU for the X-Men is Jonathan Hickman's premise with Krakoa. Like basically more or less during that time period, there was like this spike of energy, and it sort of gave birth to Krakoa, and Krakoa gave birth to the X-Men, gave birth to mutants. Some left, some stayed, but they've been sort of like just hiding under the radar because they don't want to be discovered. I would kind of play that. I would kind of play it that way. I think that would make the absolute most sense because I don't really see a way in other than some sort of multiverse gimmick, right? Like I don't really see a lot of ways in because that's obviously how the Fantastic Four are going to get in. We saw that in Thunderbolts.
Hmm.
That's sort of the direction we're going with that. But as far as the X-Men, and if the X-Men are going to be sort of birthed into the existing MCU and not in another alternate universe, I think that this is the best way to do it. Because Krakoa in Jonathan Hickman's version was more or less like an incubator for mutants. It grew mutants, right? Like if you died, you didn't die, you just came back in Krakoa. Like you basically like it was like a regeneration chamber. So I think if they do the story right, they can attribute this energy spike, or this sort of this fantastical energy that's been sort of imbued into the earth through the celestial, to sort of bring Krakoa into the mix, and then Krakoa being sort of the birthplace of mutants in the X-Men. I think that's kind of the best place to do it. But we've already sort of explored the concept of mutants with Miss Marvel. That's
Right.
already been sort of, the door's already been opened,
Right.
right? So are all the other mutants just sort of in hiding and have just let Thanos attack Earth, and the Chitauri attack Earth, and all this other stuff, and they just had no desire to be heroes? Like, I don't know,
Well, you,
man. You know,
you
like, I think that was one of the biggest missteps with the MCU over the last couple of years, was tying Miss Marvel into this whole thing. And by the way, we should talk about how they plan to do that with this, because they put her into the comics in preparation for putting her into this X-Men movie.
oh, Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah, she's a
realize that.
mutant in the comics, right? So they
Yeah.
so they basically did a revision, like a version of the X-Men story with Miss Marvel as an X-Men, like as a mutant. So Marvel Comics went to the extent to do that so they can have her as they move into the MCU version of the X-Men.
I think for me, the way in is they've always been there, right? So it's kind of like with the street level heroes like Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist. The question was, why didn't we see them in Endgame? Where were they? Why didn't they get the sling ring treatment, right? They had their own battles to fight out on the streets of New York in Hell's Kitchen and Manhattan and all that. So my thinking, and really when you think about like the Infinity Saga, the blip, and all those kind of big events that has happened in the MCU for the last almost 20 years, you're only seeing one perspective of it. You're only seeing one person's perspective, one group's perspective of everything that happened. You're not seeing everything else, right?
Sure.
So the argument could be made that they always have been there. They weren't on Doctor Strange's radar to be sling ringed into the end game, into Endgame, right? So nobody knew they were around. They were fighting their own battles or underground, or maybe they just weren't. And they were trying to, like you're saying, just keep as normal as possible without getting into it. But like with Miss Marvel, she thought her powers came from like the Bangles, but she's had those powers latent all along. And then the blip happens, and then the blip unhappens, and then they just have been there, and we just never saw their perspective on like the Battle of New York, or when Iron Man came out in 2008 and had that big news conference, or when Steve Rogers was unfrozen. Nope, they weren't around when the Avengers were being assembled. So it was, you just have to explain where they've been, for those many years, or you just don't, and they're just there now. And now you're getting this new perspective of, superheroes. What is it that Vision said? Ever since Tony Stark made himself known, the threat levels have grown exponentially, or something like that.
Yeah.
To Yeah, when they said that in Civil War. So it's just one of those things where they hadn't had to come out until Iron Man said he was Iron Man, and then all these like world-ending events started happening. They had no reason to come out. You have, for those that were like disfigured mutants, you have the Morlock situation, all the disfigured mutants that couldn't blend into normal society. You write them into the Morlocks, and they've been living underground for who knows how long, and there's urban myth and legend of people that think they saw some like alligator or huge rat or something in the sewers, and it was really a mutant. So
But there's a way to do this story without having to say that they existed during the same time. There is a way to do that, right?
yeah,
Like I said, I think the Celestial is the tie-in. I think
yeah,
that's the way
that's
to
true.
go, because let's just forget the whole idea about Krakoa for a second, right? Like, they could just use the celestial energy the same way that they used the Terrigen stuff back in Agents of Shield. Like, say the celestial energy has been imbued into into all of humanity. It's crossed over into DNA and whatever, and it creates this mutation in certain people and whatever. right? Like that's something that actually could be explored, because without Professor X, there is no X-Men.
Right.
So if you make Professor X sort of the linchpin of the X-Men getting started, and he has to go, like, he realizes he's different, and he has to go out and, build Cerebro and find the people, like find other mutants like him so he can help them. Maybe he's inspired by the Avengers. Maybe he's inspired by the other groups, right? Like maybe that's the thing. Like there's a chance that they can do it that way. The only character that sort of upsets doing it that way is Wolverine, because he's been around for 200 years, unless you
Right.
change his backstory, which I think is really stupid. So, but then again, Namor is also considered the original mutant as well.
Yep.
So maybe it's just Namor and Wolverine that predate this version of the mutants, right? And then the celestial energy is this thing that sort of, again, imbues the earth, crosses over into human DNA, alters human
Accelerated.
DNA, accelerates it. Professor X has changed, when he's young, and then builds Cerebro, etc. But Wolverine, Miss Marvel, and Namor are sort of the outliers that already exist. So you could kind of explain it that way. I like my Krakoa idea. The other idea I really like too, and this would be a multiversal gimmick, but I think it would be awesome. Did you ever read Enemy of the State, the Wolverine story?
No, I missed that one.
Okay, so he gets programmed to basically go assassinate somebody, right? Because he's like a killing machine. He's worked as a secret agent for Shield. He's worked for the Canadian government. He's just like this killing machine.
So
So he
Manchurian
gets
candidate kind of thing.
brainwashed. Sorry.
So Manchurian candidate kind of thing.
Yeah, Manchurian Candidate. Exactly, right? So he gets brainwashed into, committing this political murder. So what they could do is have Wolverine cross over into this universe to kill somebody, and the X-Men have to follow him to stop him. Like they could use that whole enemy of the state structure to kind of bring him into this universe. How they keep them here, whether they do or not, that's a whole other thing. But that's definitely something that could be explored and would actually make a ton of sense. Like it actually could work.
Now, if they're talking about Doomsday and Secret Wars retconning the MCU, then there's some rumors out there that basically I think it's going to be Doomsday. That's going to be almost like Avengers versus X-Men Light, because it's going to be two incursions. So the incursion worlds are going to be the Sony universe and the Marvel 616 universe colliding, and of
Right.
course the Sony universe goes away, right? So then they have that incursion battle, so to speak, and the Sony universe goes away, and then the whole MCU gets retconned, starts over. So that kind of goes back to my theory of they've always now have been there. And so you wipe clean everything that happened up until from 2008 to Doomsday is, for lack of a better term, no longer matters. If we're talking
Right.
about if Doomsday is retconning everything, then
Right.
from I am Iron Man to to Doomsday is gone, and then whatever is birthed out of Secret Wars is the new MCU, and it's a clean slate. So now the X Men have always been, and you just tell their story, right? So yeah, so I think it could be that. I don't think now that now that I think about it, I don't, because it's being released in 2028 after Secret Wars, you don't have to shoehorn them in into the MCU. They just are there.
Right. I get what you're saying. I still think that, yeah, but like, as much as I hate to say it, this whole incursion thing is just them cleaning up messy threads that they started that they didn't finish.
Right.
Right. Like this whole storyline, because this is what they should have done with Loki. Like Loki should have been the start of all of this. Like, let's just face facts. You know, they
Yeah.
should have just proceeded from Loki and just said, okay, blank slate. We can do whatever we want. Loki just basically broke the universe. What can we do here? And they should have really had a design and a plan to do something on the heels of Loki, which they didn't obviously have because we got other movies that didn't touch Loki at all,
Mhm.
right? They had nothing to do with Loki. There was no tie-ins, there was no nothing. So they kind of missed their opportunity here. And I was thinking too, in Fantastic Four, they missed an opportunity as well. When they're like, during the car chase scene, when Ben's trying to get away from the Silver Surfer,
Yeah.
and Reed says, "Just jump anywhere."
Yep.
He should have just jumped into the Thunderbolts shot.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he should have jumped into the Thunderbolt shot. Everybody been like, "What the hell just happened?" Right? Like
Yeah.
that would have been the ultimate moment to sort of pick a moment where things could really shift into unknown territory and to really sort of take a gamble. Like I think that would have actually been something that would have made a lot of news, would have created a lot of hype. A lot of people would have been like, "Holy cow, how did they do that mid-movie?" Like they just literally they're in the middle of this scene, they're dealing with Sue giving birth to Franklin, and then boom, they're in and then they're in the same universe as the rest of the MCU. Like that could have been crazy. But yeah.
Yeah, that was the only thing that kind of disappointed me with watching Thunderbolts at the end of it. They showed the Fantastic Four ship, but Fantastic Four didn't explain how that got there. Because
Yeah.
I thought there would have been more of a connective thread. Like we know they're going to end up in our Marvel 616, but I mean the end of Fantastic Four would have been cool if the post credit scene was Doom gets Franklin and they have to chase him out, and then they jump universes, and then it leads to the post credit scene of Thunderbolts, and then they're like, who's this going on? But that's neither here nor there. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, eh, I think that the X Men is it's going to be tricky. That Jake Schreier's going to have. This is the movie that they got to get right. This is X Men is such an iconic movie that we've seen in many iterations from you know various different movies to X Men '97. It holds a special place in every comic book fan's heart. This is more than any other character in existence. The X Men.
And X-Men 97 set the bar. Like, let's face
It
it, like
really
X-Men
did.
97 set the bar.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, listen, if you can't live up to this, you hired the wrong people to take over. Like you hired the wrong people to do this story.
Yeah.
Right.
They
And Bo
really.
DeMayo
Yep.
who's now been let go from the show, is just going to be like laughing, silently to himself
Yeah.
because yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. This is the movie they've got to get right. If they don't get X Men right, if X Men turns out to be not a great movie, and I'm not even talking about it just has to be great. It can't even be mediocre. It can't even be like a B plus movie. It's gotta knock it out of the park. It's got to be a home run movie, or you're going to lose both the casual and the diehard fans because you're going to lose the diehard fans. Like you can't you, you took our property and jacked it all up, and then the casual fans are going to be like that. Maybe only have exposure to the X Men movies and maybe the animated series. Are going to be like, what is this X Men? This is not the X Men I remember. Like you have to
Yeah.
really thread that line and thread that needle. And Jake Schreier's got a job ahead of him for the next few years of getting the casting right, getting the script right, getting the set pieces right. Um, you better get that CGI team, eating their Wheaties because it's going to be a lot of CGI. Uh, Everything has got to be on point because if they screw up X Men, you can forget about the rest of the MCU from here on out because it'll be done. This is the one movie they got to get right.
Yeah. It'll be the signal to all of us that, if there's a future for the MCU or not. Like that will be the
Exactly.
watermark. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. X-Men will be the canary in the coal mine of MCU's future. Like
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. They have to nail it. They have to get it. They have to leave all the political activism, social activism shit. Like, sure, okay. Now actually no, that's kind of a stupid thing to say about X-Men. It has to be done right. If there's going to be a message in this particular film, it has to be done with the same subtlety, with analogy, with allegory, with an artistic standard. It has to be done artfully for it to resonate with people. It
Yes.
like if you do some heavy-handed preaching, proselytizing in the X-Men movie, that is not going to land on the audience well. It's
Right.
just not. Because we're
Right.
used to the allegory. They're a living allegory. We don't need any preaching. We don't need
Right.
any of that stuff,
Like we
right?
get it.
They're a
We
living
understand the
allegory.
concept. We understand the concept. right?
Exactly,
So
right?
it doesn't need to be heavy handed.
It doesn't need to be heavy-handed. If you want to explore political and social themes, the X-Men characters are the perfect way to do that. But to do it through allegory, to do it through story, to do it through character, to do it through like art, the artful means that you have at your disposal, not not PSAs. If you throw a fucking PSA at us, we're gonna lose our minds and we're gonna riot. Like that's going to happen
Yeah.
because we've already told we've already been pretty clear that we're done with all that stuff. We don't want to see it in any MCU properties anymore. We don't want to see it in DC. We don't want to see it in DC properties anymore. We don't want to see it in the Star Wars properties anymore. Like we're done with that stuff. So if you do it with the X-Men, just because it's the X-Men and because they have a history where they were sort of central to the civil rights movement, just don't do it. Like find a way to do it, but do it artfully. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
And it can
So
be done. It can be done.
yeah, it can definitely be done. Like there's no discounting that. It can be done, you know? Um Now, my concern with the X-Men moving forward is that if they're doing this much right now with Miss Marvel to position her into the X-Men, that she is going to be a major focus of this X-Men movie. And I think that is the wrong move. I think that's an absolutely wrong move.
Like she might be the tie-in between the current MCU to where we're retconning it in the future.
Well, I think she may be one of the point of view X-Men characters like in the film, and I don't think that that's going to be the right move at all.
Yeah.
Because she's historically not an X-Men where X-Men fans identify with Miss Marvel as an X-Man. That's not something that, long time X-Men fans, 30, 40-year X-Men, 50-year X-Men fans will say, okay, yeah, Miss Marvel, yeah, recognizable X-Men. I got to go see this movie. It's X-Men. I got to go. No, that's not going to work. You got to have the characters that have been connected to the X-Men since the X-Men, since like day
Yeah.
one, right? You can't do it through Miss Marvel. It's just not going to work. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
yeah, I agree with you there. I think you have to have one of the core X-Men be your POV.
Yeah,
Like I said, maybe be it Nightcrawler, it could be Iceman. It could be Angel too. Warren Worthington III, he's got a ton of money, right? So he's I don't know what happens after Secret War Doomsday, but he's spending all this money like trying to figure out what happened with this incursion thing, and he finds out there's this group of hidden heroes called the X-Men that have been around, and he figures it out, and he finds his way in that way. But I think the POV character has got to be somebody not associated with the MCU. It's got to be somebody within the X-Men now.
yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to look at the data that they have and they're going to figure out. I think right now they're debating whether Wolverine is going to be one of those characters. I really
Oh yeah.
do. I feel like that's a debate that's ongoing. And I think with the success of Deadpool and Wolverine, that's clear data that says that that might be the right decision. But also the fact that, the first X-Men movie, he was a POV character. He was driving the
Mhm.
story with Rogue, right?
Mhm.
And the first X-Men movie did really well. So what data points do we have? The only X-Men story we have on screen that did not put Wolverine front and center was X-Men 97, which did excellent. Like
Yeah.
that show did excellent. It was critically acclaimed. The fans love it. So yes, maybe you could push Storm into the POV character role. Maybe that can be done. But as far as like what do we have the most data on? That's Wolverine. Wolverine's one of the most recognizable characters on the planet. He's up there now, probably close to Batman, probably close to Spider-Man, probably close to Superman, right? Like let's just face facts. That's probably the case at this point. Whether they do it or not is going to be determined about how Hollywood feels collectively about putting a 30 to 40-year-old white man into the leading role of this X-Men movie, which is an allegory for basically otherizing, like,
Yeah.
everybody else, the
Yep.
marginalized. Like like it's literally a living allegory for the marginalized. So do we lead with the 40-year-old, typical tip like 30, 40-year-old typical white guy who does nothing but drink beer and talks like a sailor, like, you know, or do you do like, do you do an updated version of Wolverine? Like, does he get the Johnny Storm treatment to get past the judges?
I mean, that's
Like,
why I was
who
saying that's
knows?
that's why I was saying the gutsy move is not have Wolverine at all. Don't put him in the first movie. Put him in the second
Don't
movie.
no 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 don't no don't do that because you need this movie to be commercially successful. And I don't think you are commercially successful without, putting these guys at the top of the pile. Like
Yeah,
you got to
but
put
unless that Wolverine is Hugh Jackman, nobody's gonna care.
That's not true. That's not true at all. Because Wolverine is such a universal character where okay, so let me put it this way. If you put together a trailer with the new Wolverine and that Wolverine can sell that trailer, can sell the new version of Wolverine in that trailer to the audience, that audience is going to fall in love with that version of Wolverine because everybody loves Wolverine. There's very few people that don't like Wolverine. The only people that don't like Wolverine, funny enough, are Marvel writers, which is hilarious. but but at the end of the day, like I think that he's sort of going to be very core to whether this movie is a success or not. Now, the Miss Marvel thing, I think, is going to be the thing that either makes or breaks this thing. I think they need to really take a hard look and say, listen, okay, I know we've invested time and money into putting Miss Marvel into the scope of the X-Men, the scope of like putting her into the scope of the mutants. But if we do this, if we put her front and center in this new X-Men movie, is she going to be able to hold the tension and is she going to be able to drive the box office? And I think they already have a box office with her name on it that already tells them that that's probably not the case.
Yeah. I mean, this movie is gonna be focus grouped to an inch of its life. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
absolutely. Yeah.
from script all the way down to first looks, it's just gonna be focus grouped to death, which is why I'm afraid that, when you do that, then it's gonna call for like reshoots and then it's just gonna be this like mishmash of trying to please everyone. And I think you're not gonna be able to do that. Because what have we seen in the MCU that's just that you can tell it was like focus grouped? What do you think? A movie that was just or
Uh,
even a TV show that was just like focus group to within an inch of its life.
I don't know. I don't know. I would say maybe Brave New World got pretty focus group to death
Yeah, yeah, I
because
would
I
say
think
that
they
too.
wanted to do. I think they wanted to do a story that was closer to Israel, and
Yeah,
that got focus grouped out as well as that happened with Superman as well. So I would say that Brave New World is probably the best example of that.
yeah. I just don't want X Men to do that. I want some. I want some gutsy storytelling to happen.
Me
If you
too.
do have Wolverine in the first movie, I don't do like you did in Brave New World and show him. Like have him be the thing that people talk about leaving the theater. So you show like the core X-Men that people might expect, like what the ones we were talking about, and then people are maybe expecting Wolverine but aren't
I don't
being
think they get away
shown
with that.
Wolverine.
I don't think they get away with that. I don't think you get away with an X-Men trailer without leading with your best. I think there's got to be one trailer or there's got to be some the audience has to have some impression that Wolverine is like if they want Wolverine, the audience has to have some impression that he's in the story, that he's been cast. There's got to be something there because I don't see MCU audiences showing up for the original X-Men. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm going to say maybe I'm wrong based on the response to X-Men 97 who, strongly put Cyclops in the center of everything, which he did and the character did really well with fans. The character did phenomenally well
Mm,
with fans in X-Men 97. So maybe you
yeah.
can make the case that you don't need Wolverine, but the
I'm
data
just gonna
the data
say I'm just gonna
the
say
data supports
first
Wolverine.
class. I'm just gonna say first class didn't have Wolverine. They
Right,
had
that's
him
true.
in a fun little cameo, which was hilarious, I thought.
Yeah.
But they didn't have him in there, and it was fine. It was a really in fact, they didn't really have him through that whole series. The from X-Men First Class, Age of Apocalypse. What was the next one? Age of Apocalypse was the last one, but X-Men First Class, they didn't have him in there.
Yeah, but they
So
put
that
the whole onus but they put the whole onus on Magneto and Charles to carry the entire story with Raven. That was it.
yeah. Well, that makes sense with
Oh no, not
Magneto and
Raven. No, what am
Charles
I talking
carrying.
about? Not Raven. Was it Raven?
Well, I mean, yeah, it was Mystique. That was her name.
She was in first class, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was
Why am I getting
they really honed in on the relationship between Mystique and Charles.
right, right,
That
right. Why am I getting that confused? Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so
yeah,
those three characters were sort of the core character focus. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, finish
right.
your thought.
But I mean but then, it made sense that there was or that you didn't need a Wolverine to to charge a movie, to lead the movie. And it was fine. First Class was great. Age of Apocalypse, not so much, but First Class was great. I loved it. And I didn't even miss Wolverine. In fact, when I saw him in the cameo, when I saw the trailers, like, oh, there's no Wolverine. It's a new group of X-Men. Uh, gonna be great. And then they showed the cameo. Perfect. Just perfect casting, perfect way to do that. Um, but I don't know. I just don't think you want to. I get the butts and seats theory of you want butts and seats, you put Wolverine in the movie, right? That's the easy way to do it. But
Yep.
I look at First Class and you didn't need to. You tell a good story and you don't need Wolverine. But I feel like you save him for like a post credit scene where you see an arm and then you hear the snick and then everybody goes nuts. And then
Right.
you get people.
But would you agree that Wolverine is a natural character development tool for other characters? Like you almost put him into a situation and he drives every other character around him because of how off-putting and how awkward he makes his presence be within whatever situation he is. Like,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah,
not a team
because
player. He doesn't
not
play
yep,
along,
yep.
right?
Doesn't play well, doesn't play nice with the other kids,
Yeah.
right? And he's a loner, so he learns the value of teamwork and family and
Yeah.
the real power was all of us all along, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's a great vehicle to give that kind of arc to. But I mean, X-Men by definition are somewhat isolated and introverted because of the
True.
nature of who they are. So
Yep.
you get a bunch of misfits together like that, and they all could have that story arc.
Right.
So to to say Wolverine has to be in the first movie, I don't think it's the case. I don't think you have to do that. Again, First Class is proof of concept that you don't have to have a Wolverine in the first movie for it to
Right.
be good and for people to identify with the characters and to love the characters all over again. Because you cast strong people in the other roles and you're not going to miss it. Like Michael Fassbender and Xavier, they were great as Magneto and Xavier.
Yep. Fantastic.
So they were very strong and in leading that group. And not needing
Fassbender is
Wolverine to do it.
amazing.
Yeah,
Fassbender
Fassbender's
is
great.
amazing. Yeah, amazing. Okay, we didn't talk about villains. So is it confirmed that Sinister is going to be the villain for this X-Men movie?
Oh man, I don't know. I haven't read. I just read that we have a director. I mean, they haven't even talked about the lineup, but I have
Well, there
heard
were
rumors that it was Sinister.
yeah,
Um, and
rumors are Sinister.
and the fan casting for that is John Hamm. I don't
John
know.
Hamm would be amazing Sinister.
John Hamm's good. He is good.
John Hamm would be an amazing Sinister for sure. Cause like
Yeah.
I think of him in the Doctor. I think of him in the Doctor role in Sucker Punch when he shows up at the end.
Oh right. Yeah.
He was just so unnerving, but also just so charming. He would kill that role.
I'm just
Okay,
picturing him
how
in the white makeup in that crazy Mr. Sinister costume, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
John Hamm, you look ridiculous. But we'll
Yeah, well,
see.
I think they'd have to tone it down a bit. Like you know, I think I think there's some truth to the yellow spandex joke in the first X-Men movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, but you know what? When they did that cutaway scene in was it Apocalypse where they were in the danger room and they were in their and they were in their costumes?
Yeah.
Was it Apocalypse?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Age
Nightcrawler was in his
Apocalypse
red and
movie.
black and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Those actually looked kind of dope. Like they did not look as half as bad as I thought they would because they
Well,
could look
Wolverine in the yellow
really
spandex
bad.
and Deadpool and Wolverine look great.
True. True. Yeah, he
But
wore the
I don't
yellow. Yeah,
think
true.
but they were right in 2000 though, that I don't think the world was ready for that yet.
True.
So the black spandex in the first
Yeah.
X-Men movie was perfect for that setting. You're trying to
Yeah.
make a grounded, realistic X-Men movie. The last thing you want to do is put them in yellow spandex and blue spandex,
Yeah, but
because it would have taken you right out.
well, we were coming off of Blade and Underworld and all these
Yeah,
movies where people were just fighting in black leather all the time.
that's true.
So
Matrix,
the
Matrix was around that
Matrix, right?
time. Yeah,
Everybody's like, what are we gonna fight in? Black leather,
black leather,
you
baby.
know, black leather. We're gonna fight in black leather. So yeah, I kind of see why they went in that direction with the sort of the black stealth suit kind of look, but
Yep.
But yeah, no, they can pull it off. Yeah, they proved it in Deadpool and Wolverine. They can
Pull it
definitely
off
pull it
now.
off.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, let's see it. Yeah, yeah, let's see them go costume accurate. I don't think they'll go so far as to do a Mr. Sinister costume accurate.
That
That's a
would
little much.
that would look ridiculous on screen.
That's
I'm
like
picturing it
straight
in my mind, and it looks ridiculous.
that's like straight out of the Fort Lauderdale Pride Parade. Like let's be real, right? Like that's like a whole
Rough, man.
different that's a whole different ball game. Um would you be happy with Sinister or would you want a different villain?
I like Sinister. Sinister, his run in the X-Men animated series was really good. And I think Sinister playing with DNA.
Yeah.
And do you write in the clone of Jean Grey into that one? I mean, I don't know. I think you save that for the second movie. That's why I was saying Jean Grey. Don't put Jean Grey in the first one. Put her in the second one. But Sinister. I mean, we've seen Kevin Bacon play Sinister in X Men First Class. So
He would know
he
he was
was
Sebastian Shaw.
Sebastian Shaw. That's right. That was Sebastian
Yeah,
Shaw. My bad.
from the
But
Hellfire Club.
yeah, Hellfire Club. But yeah, I think Sinister would make a good one because we've seen Magneto a lot, right? And then again, if you play Magneto, you're going to draw the comparisons to Ian McKellen.
Oh
And
shit, that's the story.
yeah, nobody wants that. What's that?
They should do the Hellfire Club. You could have like these rich elite assholes who are
Mm,
mutants, and then you could have the X-Men who are mutants,
yeah,
and that could be a fucking really cool dynamic actually.
yeah.
That could be really awesome. Like they've got control, like you know what I mean? They have like a system of control, banks and
Money, power,
corporations
politics.
and money, power, politics. Yeah, all that shit. And then the X-Men are just sort of the the antidote. Like, yeah, that could be sick. That could be
Yeah,
really, really cool. I would love to see something like that.
yeah.
Because like
So mutants were always there, but hidden behind money, power, and politics.
yeah, but yes, yes. That, or you know what they could do? They can make it oh shit. They could make it something that the elite started doing out of experimentation, like
Yeah, like
having enhanced abilities.
some rich guy got a chopper out to the Celestial Island, grabbed some samples of stuff, and then brought it back to his all of his rich friends and started experimenting. Yeah,
That's the way in. That's the way in. That that's definitely the way in. And Charles Xavier could have sort of been within that circle at the beginning, and he's like, "Hey, I don't really like what I'm seeing over
you're
here.
splintering off.
I
Yep.
I'm splintering off. I'm doing my own thing." And then he goes out and he either discovers that there's more people that have been affected by this phenomena or whatever. But yeah, that actually may be the way in. That's actually really cool and really interesting.
And then you have
Um,
Sinister, the head of that DNA experimentation within the Hellfire Club. You have to
there you
rewrite
go.
Sinister into the Hellfire Club, but
There you go. That could
yeah,
actually work.
yeah.
That could actually work. I think we just made the X-Men movie, buddy. I think we
And
just finished it right there.
and then
Um,
John Hamm kind of reprises his character from Mad Men from the advertising standpoint. He's like, look, here's how you do it. So
yeah,
just a
yeah, that
darker
would have been.
side of that character.
So yeah,
Write
we
me the
started
check.
talking about this first, but I wanted to come back to it. Or we started talking about this earlier, but I want to come back to it. Who are you building your X-Men movie around? And tell me some things about the story that you would like to see.
If I'm going with the theory of they've always been there,
Yeah,
then I'm probably looking at a young kid that or maybe somebody that was blipped, right? That was blipped out in the snap and then came back. And then when they came back, something happened to them. So it could be any of them.
like the
Maybe
Terrigen thing.
yeah, like a Terrigen thing. So whatever happened in the 5 years in that whatever pocket universe they were in, something happened, and this could be a great way to explain all the X-Men, is they were blipped it was the 50% that were blipped out, and then when they blipped back, some of them came back with powers, right?
That works.
And so it could be, Warren Worthington, he was blipped out, and then he blipped back 5 years later, and he now has wings, and he's trying to figure out what happened, so he uses the money and resources, tries to figure out what happened to him, and then he runs into what we talked about, the Hellfire Club, and then something happened there with Sinister, and he flies out, and Charles finds him, and then they together try to find like individuals that happen. They compare stories and like, oh yeah, that happened to me too. Let's find some of these other people. And then, from the blip forward, so you kind of have to fast forward through some of that because a lot's happened since the blip. And then, that would be kind of your way in is I think the snap is kind of like the BC AD of the MCU. It's like, that had such a ramification in the history of the MCU that I think anything this momentous of the X-Men were always there has to happen then. That easily explains why they weren't there pre-blip and why they're there now post-blip. And, you can only tell so many stories post-blip, and it just wasn't one of those stories that was told. But now this is the chance to tell that story, through flashbacks of what happened post-blip, kind of like what Black Widow did when Yelena rematerialized and off we
Right.
went with the Black Widow story. So you
Right.
kind of have to, and if you're playing the nostalgia card for a lot of people to try to remember the heyday of the MCU, that's a great place to do it. So I think any of those X-Men, Warren Worthington, I think he can even be Nightcrawler, comes back, or he gets blipped out as a normal person, comes back as this blue devil looking thing, and he's dealing with the ramifications of that and hiding out. And then Charles finds him. And then off to the races we go with that story. And then they find that they're doing experimentation. Mr. Sinister's got some stuff off of Celestial Island, and they're doing experimentation. And they're like, no, this is not. We can't be doing that. You're killing people, and you're creating enemies and all that stuff. So, and then that's why you're fighting over the, you know, mutant people that are creating mutants and ones that have come back from the blip as mutants. Yeah, so something like that. I don't know. I'm,
Interesting.
I'm horrible at that sort of stuff.
No, no, that no, I think you actually did a pretty good job there, man. Like I would definitely watch that movie. That sounds pretty good to me, dude. So for me, it's definitely a Wolverine or Nightcrawler focus type of story. I think the Hellfire Club is the way in now. Like after I said that, I've been just as I've been listening to you, my other part of my brain has just been writing a Hellfire Club oriented X-Men movie, and I just see a thousand ways in now. I like if you tie Sinister into the Hellfire Club, I think the movie just builds itself.
Mhm.
Like you could actually start the movie right there. The Hellfire Club could actually be an organization that's been dedicated to keeping mutants secret the entire time because it's their power and it's something that they've discovered and they don't want anybody else to know about it. So they've been suppressing other mutants and they've been suppressing, you know, other groups sort of like theirs or killing off other groups like theirs. And Charles Xavier is already part of that group. And then what happens is like gets to a point where he can't take it anymore. He splinters off and he's like, okay, I need to go do something different. I'm going to start trying to serve humanity. Maybe he's inspired by the Avengers. That's kind of where I would go with it is like he sees the events of Endgame and Infinity War. He reads about it. He sees it in the media and he's sort of inspired by it. And the Hellfire Club continues to be who they are, elite assholes who have, money, power, control of the government, control of many governments. They're basically power brokers and sort of the puppet masters of the world. I think that could be a really sick way to tell this story. And, maybe Wolverine is somewhere tied to one of the government agencies that he used to work with when we meet him. And Nightcrawler is sort of maybe more of a like a casual, kind of situation where he's just a kind of duck out of water type of scenario. Um, but the one thing I hope that they get right about the X Men movies is that they don't go hard on the humor. Like, do not have important moments undercut by jokes. Just let the characters breathe, let the character development breathe. I think Jake Schreier has got the right sensibilities if he's going to explore this. So I feel pretty confident going into it, but this is where I think the story jumps off from. It's either Hellfire and Sinister or it's Krakoa, but it all has to do the precursor is all the blip and all the celestial and all the energy that's been sort of passed around since Infinity War. Like you can't have all that kind of energy passing around and have nothing
Right.
greater happen from it.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense. So why not lead into it?
I
Right?
like the Hellfire Club angle because class separation is a is a big thing now. So
Exactly.
your villains could easily be, rich entitled, rich entitled assholes, and people are going to identify with that. And people are going to be like,
Exactly.
yeah, they just, it's the Jeff Bezoses of the world that are getting
Yep.
together as these elites, and you're like, okay,
Yep.
we're only going to give certain people powers, right? Or and then it all goes wrong or whatnot. So yeah, so I think that's a great way in that people can immediately identify, even though when it's coming out in 2028, I don't think this class kind of warfare thing in our society is going to go away anytime soon.
No,
Uh, and you that's an easy
it'll
thing
be
to
worse.
identify with. Yeah, and people will immediately find the good guys in side with the good guys on that one. So yeah, I like
Yeah.
that in.
Yeah, I think that'll work, man. I really do. I hope Jake Schreier sees this because it's a great idea. It's how I would write it. Like it's definitely how I would write it. Like I would start at the Hellfire Club and Sinister and then figure out how to build the heroes around that. Like I think that's your foundation because it just writes itself. Like you write like their roles write themselves. So you just have to write the reaction to those roles. You
Right.
don't need to write, you don't need to write from the hero first. You can set up the villain and just have the hero have the X-Men be the reactionary like in that story, right? And there's a lot of ways you can come at that. Wolverine's a government agent who's seen too much and maybe they try and kill him off. I don't know. Nightcrawler again, it just could be a duck out of water situation. Maybe he gets invited to perform at the Hellfire Club, and it or maybe he's like maybe they have their own circus, and he's just like locked up in a cage, and he gets rescued. There's a lot of really cool ways to come at this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really cool, awesome ways to come at this. But yeah, I think it goes Hellfire Club, Sinister, Charles Xavier. Charles Xavier, like, breaks off and says, I want to do my own thing. It's just, he's just morally against what's happening and he wants to do something different. And maybe he's inspired by the Avengers, etc. Like, I think that's the way to go, man. I really do.
Yeah,
Um,
and he hasn't built Cerebro yet, so he can only use his telepathy to find just like the ones that are within a 10 block radius of where he's at of like
yep,
local X-Men, and that's where you get like the ones that are Warren Worthington easily could be a Manhattan rich kid, right?
yep,
And everybody could have their home base like in New York, and that's who he
absolutely.
finds first, and then at the end of it, he's like, we need to find others, and then that's when Cerebro gets built, and then you find the Jean Greys and the
Sure,
Wolverines of the world.
sure, yep. But here's the thing: Miss Marvel could fuck up this entire thing.
Maybe Miss Marvel is one that he finds first.
Maybe,
So
but
he
I don't.
finds Miss Marvel in Jersey City.
Why couldn't you just leave her as an Inhuman? Like I don't get it. Like I just feel like they're just trying to like force her onto us. Like it's like okay, you know, you guys
She
really like the
charts
X
well.
Men. Well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna force Miss Marvel into the X Men.
She tests well across all demographics.
She's great. Listen, I love Iman Vellani. I think that she's one of the best hires that Marvel has ever made as far as casting goes.
Yeah.
She's us. She's the fan. Like she's the fan inside,
Hmm.
and I love her. I think she's great, but I don't see I don't like the way they're trying to fit this character into this world, man. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like just let Miss Marvel be her like just let Miss Marvel be fucking Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
Like I would go see a Miss Marvel movie. I would watch another season of Miss Marvel. But this just does not track for me. I don't know. But anyways.
Yeah.
Um all right. Well, guys, listen, thank you so much for tuning in. Rich, this is great, man. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I had a really fun time diving into this.
I love
We hope you guys enjoyed it as
procrastinating.
much as we do. Or we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Sorry. If you want to find us on socials, Cordelore HQ, pretty much everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. We've got videos. We got clips from episodes like everywhere right now. We've had like 40,000 impressions over like the last 2 weeks. It's been nuts. It's been nuts. But if you've been watching this show and asking yourself whether you should watch the next episode, go check our receipts. Just go watch those videos. Those are our receipts. They speak for themselves. I think that you guys will really enjoy coming back to this show, and we'll continue to give you the best that we got. But this was a lot of fun. Court adjourned. I'm Frank McGuire.
I'm Rich Herrera.
Peace. All right.